Hey everybody, welcome to Freedom Chasers, where we chase freedom one adventure at a time. My name is Stanley, and today I'm going gold prospecting on the Sauk River. I just started gold prospecting just under a year ago. I'm still trying to learn the equipment and figure everything out. I've had some success. I'm still trying to dial everything in. So I'll show you guys a little more when I get out there of what my goals are for today and show you guys the whole process. Follow along. So here's my gravel bar. I'm kind of on the tail end of it. It's a nice gravel bar. It's been producing a fair amount of gold, and we had a huge flood just before Christmas. Nice little inside bend. And the reason I'm back here today, and I'll show you guys a little more after I get everything set up, is the last time I was here trying to dial in the sluice. I was digging very far up on the front end of the bar, which is where a lot of the heavier golds fall out first, and that's all I was catching was the big gold. So my goal today is to come back in here a little bit, where I know I've caught fine gold before, set up the sluice again and try to do a little trial run just to make sure that the sluice is catching the fine gold the way that I need it to and clearing the fine material out, so I'm not cleaning the sluice box out after every bucket. So that's the goal for today. Okay, so here's my setup. I've got the 8x47 Dream Mat combo sluice. I'm going to be using a 1/4-inch classifier. I'm going to be digging kind of in this area. I don't know if you can see, but this inside bend of the gravel bar, I know there's normally gold that comes through here, and if you can see, there's kind of little channels where you can see where the water does run when the water level is higher. And I want to be in those low spots where the water is coming around the bend, coming over these rocks. I'll dig back behind these bigger rocks and try to find some gold. I'm gonna have to set up the sluice way over there where the water is running better for the sluice. It's kind of dead right here, or too deep out where it has a nice flow. Yeah, so I'm gonna be walking some buckets a little ways. That's all right though. The harder part is gonna be digging through this frozen ground. All right, we're gonna try to get this sluice set up. The water is a little bit lower today than it has been. It's always a struggle getting the sluice set up first time for the day. Water levels and speeds are always different. I think we're gonna try to set up somewhere in here if we can. So we'll see how this goes. This should be a pretty good flow. It's going a little fast, but we'll see how the cells start reacting when I start putting material in. The big thing I'm trying to avoid is kind of how it's surging. So I might have to mess with putting some rocks in front or removing rocks, trying to get rid of that surging wave that keeps coming across. You want a nice consistent water flow coming through. That way your cells are continuously working instead of those big gushes that can just flush everything out. So I might have to fine tune this a little bit better once I start running material. This part's still taking me a while. I'm still learning. This is why I'm here today, is to make sure I have faith in that thing. So getting it set up perfectly is worth it in the long run. That way I can run 3-4 buckets through it before I have to clean it out versus one bucket and have to clean out every time, but still capturing that fine gold. So we'll see how this goes. I'll go start digging and then show you guys where I'm digging and feeding the material. Okay, I'm gonna start digging right here. I think I might do a little test in first just to make sure I'm getting some fine gold. And I normally when I dig, I fill up this pan, and that seems to be the perfect amount of material to go into my classifier one batch at a time. And normally I go probably 6 to 8 pans in a bucket. Gives me about 2/3 of a bucket, and then I got to carry it over the sluice and run it. So let's start moving some rocks and digging through this frozen ground. All right, that material is not easy to dig. So this might take a while as well, classifying, trying to break down those frozen clumps of dirt. A lot of these rocks still have the gravel frozen stuck to it, so I gotta get some water on it and break all that up. I'm using a 1/4-inch classifier right now. This sluice seems to like the 1/4-inch material. I recently just ordered a 1/2-inch classifier, hoping to go through more material, but I wanted to continue going with my 1/4-inch on that sluice until I know I get it dialed in before I start messing with the size of the material going into it. So once I get that dialed, then I'm going to start looking more towards production, get a 1/2-inch classifier in here, be able to run through these buckets a little bit faster. All right, looks like I got everything thawed out and through the classifier. So I'll go dig another pan. I know there's gold in this bucket from my test pan. I dumped it through the classifier. So, and I've dug the same spot before in the same area, and I know there's gold there. So hopefully the sluice box catches it all. So what we're here for today is to increase my confidence in my equipment. I don't know if you guys can see that. Also, I would normally have my sluice a little bit closer. Where I'm digging right behind us right here is kind of far away from the sluice. So I'm gonna go run this whole bucket kind of slowly. I'll show you guys that. But normally I would go run this, put a couple scoops through it, and then also go back and start digging to fill up another bucket. When I come back to the classifier to classify that pan of material, I'll add another 2-3 scoops into the sluice and kind of keep going. And then by the time that's empty, I have another bucket ready to go and switch. And then after about 3 or 4 of those, I clean out my sluice box into my bucket and either reset it or call it a day. Yeah, like I said, with the sluice being so far away, I'm just going to go run this, and it's only half a bucket. It'll probably take me 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully this isn't too fast for the fine gold. That's what I'm testing today, is to find out why I didn't get any fine gold the last time I came out. I don't know if it's because my sluice was running too fast or because I was digging higher up on the bar where there's only bigger gold. So hopefully I have some fine gold in this mat today, and then I can have more confidence in my equipment and be able to run more volume without worrying about losing gold. These dream mats do seem to be very forgiving based on how you have it set up. Have it too slow, it'll still catch gold, but you're going to be doing cleanouts way more often. I'll show you guys my cleanup sluice. It also has a dream mat in it, the Boss Buddy cleanup sluice. I'll show you guys that when I clean up the concentrates when I get home. I was also worried that I had that going too fast when I was at home, and did one pass through the Boss Buddy, found very small amount of gold, and was worried that it didn't catch it all. So I re-ran everything through and then panned through my tailings after that and didn't find any gold in the second run or in what I panned through in the tailings. So it caught everything on the first pass. So that gave me confidence in that. also telling me that that's very forgiving because I had the cleanup sluice running way too fast. The top, probably half of the mat was just getting blown out and it still captured all the gold on the first run. So these dream mats are amazing. They are very forgiving. But they can be a little tricky to get those cells all the way down the sluice to be working the way they're supposed to. This light kit has made life much easier. So from this point on, everything's in the sluice now. From this point on, any material comes out of the sluice and into this bucket or from this bucket to anywhere else, you're transferring that material and you could possibly lose gold. So you want to be very careful anytime you transfer any of your concentrates. So I'm going to try to do this as carefully as possible and kind of show you guys how I do it. I'm going to go fill this bucket up with water so I can wash the mat off in this bucket. So I don't have very many concentrates in the mat, which is a good thing, but I could have also had it going too fast. It's a lot of coarse black sands. So we'll just have to wait and see how much fine gold we got in here. I know there was supposed to be gold in here. We'll see when we get it home. But this is how I clean it out. Got a clean mat. Now we want to rinse out the inside of the box. A lot of the material sometimes works its way underneath the mat. It's fine, it still gets caught. But I want to make sure, sometimes the gold will go underneath that metal lip that holds the mat down and just sit right up against the leading face of the mat. So I want to rinse all that out good. Nice clean sluice box. All our concentrates in the bucket. I like to dump out the excess water. I've got about half a mile to get out of here to get back to the car. So I don't want to be carrying 4 gallons of water in there. Just be very careful when you dump any water. Sometimes you want to dump it into a pan, especially if you have you've been working with your hands in the water a lot. The oils from your fingers can actually make some of the finer gold float to the surface with surface tension from the oils. I noticed a couple times with the classifier, it scrapes these plastic buckets. These buckets are a petroleum product, so they're putting oils into the water as those buckets break down, and I've seen gold float. So just be careful when you go to dump this water off. Most of the time coming straight out of the sluice, it's fine because it's a lot of water coming over it. I just pulled fresh water out of the river, so nothing should be floating. So I'll dump this out, pack everything up, and we'll see you guys at the house. Okay, everybody, we're back at the house with the concentrates from yesterday. We ran a half a bucket of material, and the goal yesterday was to fine tune my sluice, make sure I have my pitch angle right, the speed, the volume of water, the consistency of the water. Trying to fine tune the sluice to make sure that when I go out next time, I know what I'm looking for, and that I'm confident that it's catching all the gold and processing through the fine material like it's supposed to, and not running too fast. I feel like I had it running a little fast yesterday, but that's why we're doing this test. We're gonna see how much fine gold we have. I was gonna set up the Boss Buddy cleanup sluice to show you guys that, but I only went through a half a bucket, so I don't have that many concentrates. So I'm just gonna show you guys my panning techniques and see if there's any gold in final pan. And if not, then I need to go back to the sluice and maybe slow it down if I'm still not finding fine gold. All right, so these are my concentrates from yesterday. This is what I like to call my finishing pan. It's kind of an older pan. It's a little roughed up on the bottom, which is nice because the gold sticks to the pan once it touches the pan. With these concentrates being all heavies, all heavy material that the sluice caught, the finer gold can get stuck in those black sands more easily. So I'm gonna go through probably 2 spoonfuls at a time into my small pan and very meticulously pan through that. And I will be capturing the gold in my snuffer bottle. And then when I get through all the concentrates, after I put everything in the snuffer, I will then empty the snuffer back into the finishing pan, and then we will see the total amount of gold. And then I will separate the rest of the black sands from the gold, get all the gold in one edge, and pick it up with my pipette and into my vial. This process is kind of tedious, but this is the fun part. This is where you get to see the gold. This is some gold from, this was from the other day. This was the last trip that I went out on. Oh, also I'll be using jet dry to put in the water. It breaks the surface tension of the water, especially with this fine gold. If it gets up on top of the water, it will float. So if you put a dry section in your pan and the water goes back underneath the gold, it will pick that gold up and it'll float on the surface. The jet dry helps break the surface tension and allows your gold to sink the way it should. So let's get started. I'm just gonna spoon some of this material from this pan over into this pan. Okay, so we just want to make sure all the gold gets put into the bottom. Just pushing all the concentrates, trying to get the gold into that bottom corner. The gold should be the heaviest thing in the pan, so it should go down to the bottom, but those black sands are also very heavy and the gold can get stuck in those black sands. You can kind of already tell my heavier material is coming over here. Those are all my black sands. And then as the sands turn blonde, those are the lighter material. And then you have your gravels that are lighter. Okay, and then I will start washing the lighter material back. Kind of get that lighter material off. Now at the top of the pan, we mostly have the black sands. And then you just slowly pull that material back. I like to go straight up and down like this. And I like to keep this area of the pan clear, kind of like where you can see the bottom of the pan. That way, through that window there, as the material starts to come down, if gold does start to creep down, you'll be able to see it. So I have all my garbage down here, and this is all my pay material. And as everything starts coming down, I will pick the gold out of the middle of the pan with the snuffer, and then towards the end of the pan, hopefully I'll have a decent amount of gold at the top of the pan. Okay, and there is our first speck of gold.
That little piece right there. I know some of the other ones kind of look like gold, but they're showing up weird on the camera. That is gold. The other stuff is moving too fast. So I'm gonna use the snuffer, pick that up. Just like so, and then keep going. And then I will pan through everything, same process until I'm done with all of this material, and then I will put the snuffer bottle, empty the snuffer bottle back into the pan and do one final pan. So I'll kind of speed this up and then show you guys the final pan. So out of that, those 2 spoonfuls, I already have a piece of gold in the snuffer. There's another very small piece right there, and the camera's not even picking it up, but right there, oh, I guess it is. That is also gold. So I am catching fine gold. That is a good sign. The sluice is not running too fast, even though it seems like it is, but it's still catching fine gold, which is awesome. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the gold can be stuck in the black sands. The gold, I know, is supposed to go to the bottom of the pan, but when there's so much black sand and this gold being so fine, that is actually a piece coming up right there, just surfing right directly on top of the black sands. If I can get the camera to stay still. That's a piece of gold. It will surf on top of those finer black sands. So that's why I like the method of kind of leaving this clean window open, because that gold will eventually surf down that black sand, and as soon as it hits the pan, it'll slow down with that roughed up bottom of the pan. So once that hits the pan and starts creeping along, then I can snuffer it up. But the goal is to leave as much gold up in the top and the bottom of the pan as possible. But it will surf on those black sands. I'm also in the Pacific Northwest, so the gold here is all glacial gold. It's real small, fine flakes. We're not really known for having nuggets in this area. You can see that piece just moved a little bit further down the black sand. I just kind of keep an eye on it. And as soon as it gets away from the junk, then I can grab it. See, now it is all the way down to the pan. And it should stay there. The black sand, once the gold hits the bottom of the pan, it should stay there and the black sands can continue moving over the gold. And that little piece just jumped into my window, so I'll grab that. Like I said, kind of a tedious process. A little bit more exciting when I dump the whole snuffer back in for the final pan, but to get through all these black sands, it's a little tedious. The Boss Buddy cleanup sluice does a really good job of, if I were to use that to lessen my concentrates, so let's say I ran 4 or 5 buckets yesterday, I would have a lot more concentrates, especially if I do multiple cleanouts on the sluice box. I could fill this entire pan up with concentrates. So then I can run that through the cleanup sluice and get it down to this amount of material and then pan through it, similar to what I'm doing right now. But with a lot more gold. Hopefully that's the goal when you're running more material. But when you have it going through the sluice in the field and your cleanup sluice at home, then you really have all heavies. It's all black sands, and that gold can really get stuck in there. So this process, going through it very slowly, meticulously, to make sure you're getting all your gold. Okay, so that is also what it can do, which is better. So it, instead of surfing down, it, when I do the technique that I do, where the water hits it kind of from both sides and drags back down, it pushed that piece of gold up onto the pan, which is great because then the black sands will keep falling. That gold will just sit right in that corner. Okay, so now I'm on this big pan. I got it down far enough to where I can just pan with what was left in this bigger pan. And I am starting to see quite a few small flecks of gold now that I've panned this back quite a ways. So we'll get to the bottom of this, snuff everything up, and throw everything back in the pan and show all the final gold all together. All right, let's empty the snuffer bottle into the little pan very carefully. There it is, some really nice fine gold. You can see all that really fine gold. That was what the whole test of yesterday was for, to make sure we were catching that fine gold. And we've done that successfully. So I'll get this back into the corner of the pan. Pull back those last bit of fine black sands. And try to sniff this up into our vial. So I'm gonna add this gold into a vial of gold that I already have going. It's not much, that's only a half a bucket of material. So that's pretty good for a half a bucket in this area. Especially digging through frozen ground. Okay, and that is the gold in the vial. I added to an old vial because this was only a half a bucket of material. It wasn't that much. It wasn't terrible though for a half a bucket. some really fine stuff, especially with the ground being frozen. I wasn't able to get very deep, so it was a lot of surface flower gold, but that's what I was after, just to make sure my sluice was capturing it all. Okay, so that wraps everything up. We did find some decent gold for a half a bucket. That's pretty good. For around this area, it's very small, fine, glacial gold. I just started out just under a year ago, so I really wanted to gain confidence in my equipment. And that is what we did. We found the fine gold. The sluice box captured it. So now that I have that confidence, I can go back, set the sluice up the same exact way, be able to run 10, 12 buckets when the ground thaws out, hopefully, and get some more gold. We definitely did not get rich today. Probably have $1 of gold. Gold is now up to $5,000 an ounce. But that's not the goal here. The goal is to chase freedom one adventure at a time. And that's what I'm doing. Just getting out, enjoying the outdoors. So if you're interested, follow along. I plan on making more videos on prospecting. Also, I have some raccoon hides that I'm working on, tanning. I'd like to do some hunting and fishing videos. So if you're interested, follow along. Have a good one.